What's up guys, Andrew Gook here, and in today's video I'm going to teach you how to go from this to this. Roll that intro. Okay, so today I'm gonna try to recreate an underwater scene, but put my own Toronto spin on it. We're gonna put in a known building here in Toronto called the Gooderham building in the St. Lawrence Market, just on top of the water with a little bit of a cliff under it and maybe like some ocean elements around that. But that's kind of just the idea in my head. Let's see what I come up with. So first thing I want to do is just drag in all of my like background images. I'm gonna start with the water, probably because that's the hardest thing to sell in this composition. I've got a few stock images here. Let me see. I drag this one in here. Now this can be kind of like the lip of the water, and we can build out the underwater scene here and then the above water scene here with the building. So what I'm going to do first is create a mask on this, and then hit B for my brush, and I want black, so I'm masking out the bottom here. I don't want a hard brush. I'm going to make that a soft round brush and just kind of like paint out that edge. Okay, so that's the lip. Now I gotta find the kind of base layer here. I'm gonna take just the bottom part because this light is gonna be hard to match with everything else. I'm just gonna use the lasso tool for this. Just go around it rough. Make that selection. Get my brush. Oops, sorry, now I'm gonna select inverse and then make a mask of that. So I have the bottom piece there. This would be like bottom rocks. It's important to label everything because when you have like a million layers, it's impossible to find them. Like there's two types of Photoshop people. It's those that name their layers and those that don't. I'm gonna brush this out a bit more. So there isn't that hard line. I'm gonna pull up, you can press Command R for the ruler. I often do this just to find kind of where the midpoint is in my composition. I normally either use the rule of thirds or center my compositions, just because it's like easier for the eye to understand like where to look, just to kind of see what this looks like. I'm gonna create a blank layer, pull it down to the bottom, and sample this color here. And then what I'm gonna do is click M, and then click G to dump that color in that layer. It looks okay. We'll blend all of this in at the end here. I think I'm gonna pull in this photo. Bring the brush down to 50% just to blend this a bit more, like it's fading into the background. Okay, I'm just gonna change the levels on these rocks a bit, bring them darker, trying to mimic like how dark it is underwater. I'm gonna pull out the wand, grab this white part of the water lip. Okay, I'm gonna keep that same selection and then just kind of mask everything out from that part. Cool. This lip needs a bit of work. I think we need to make that a bit darker, so I'm going to pull up the levels. Bring this guy back to 50. Just brush that out a bit. Blend that in nicely. When you're masking, the black takes away from whatever layer mask you have, but if you press X, it'll switch to white and you can like paint that back in. So that's a decent start. Under here, we're gonna do some sort of like cliff kind of thing. Pull this one in. Flip this vertically. Pull this guy down a bit. I sometimes use the object selection tool to just quickly do a kind of like dirty job of masking this out. The importance is just not to get any of that white in there. Now you can just click the mask button. Boom. I'll probably flip this guy horizontally just because it'll fit better in there. You can play around with the warp tool. We want to rasterize the layer. Command T, warp, and you can just like play around with the fit. I'm happy with that for now. Now we have to bring obviously the levels down. There's many ways to do blending like this. I sometimes start with the levels. What you can also do is go double click into the layer, and sometimes doing like a color overlay works. Obviously we don't want white, we want black, and just play around with the opacity but also the blend mode, so it can be like soft light, hard light, maybe a darker blue. That looks okay for now. I'm not labeling my layers here. I'm gonna name this cliff. This is like background blue. Okay, great. I'm gonna bring down the cliff below that water lip layer, just so it's like hidden behind those bubbles and stuff and gives it kind of some distance. Next up, we want to bring in the building. So this is a shot I actually took of the Gooderham building here in Toronto. I think this will work well here. What I'm going to do first is just crop out what I don't want to use, so it's easier for me to kind of mask out the fine details here. So I just used the marquee tool, rectangular marquee tool here, and then make sure you're on your layer, and then you click the mask. Cool. And now I'm just going to use the pen tool to outline the building, just so I can get in the nooks and crannies and make sure I have a crisp mask, because this will be against a blue or white sky, so if I kind of miss something here or there, it'll stand out. So I'll just fast forward through that process right now. Okay, now that I have that selection, I'm going to press L for the lasso tool. I'm going to right click and select inverse, and then I'm going to click B for my brush and just mask out what I selected. Looking good. Command D for deselect. Now this is on a little bit of an angle. I don't know if I love the size of it. I think I'm gonna make it a bit smaller and bring that guy up here. We're gonna clean up the building a bit now. My favorite method of kind of matching styles, like you see here, the light doesn't belong there. I like using the clone stamp tool, so you can press S on your keyboard and then hold down Option and then click somewhere where you want to sample from, and then you can just bring it up and match that. Okay. I'm gonna get rid of this wire next because it's a bit distracting. I find the best way to do kind of like wires is you press J and it's the spot healing brush. I find it just offers kind of a cleaner look. Now I'm not gonna go too crazy with the cleaning this up because I am just posting it to Instagram, so doesn't matter to me as much. But if this was for a client or you're printing this out, you definitely want to go in there and be as tedious as possible with these kind of steps. What you can also do in this situation where I'm having a hard time finding window to put back in there, what I might do is press M for the marquee tool and just kind of like take this window here, Command C to copy, Command V to paste, paste it right on there, Command T to transform and flip horizontal, and then I can kind of mold it in to the other side here. Okay, now I'm going to try to see what a background looks like in this composition to see where to put both the building and the cliff underneath. Good. And then to get rid of this like stuff down here, it's bleeding through because one of our layers, I think it's this middle water, is at 80% opacity here. So what we want to do is select this area to mask out. So to do that, you can go to the water lip, press Command, and then click on the layer here. And then it brings up the selection here. And go back to our sky image, click the layer mask, select the inverse E, and let's get rid of that. Okay, so obviously the building doesn't look the best right now. To fix this, I am going to bring down the levels like we did before. I'll bring it down a bit darker. I think I'm gonna put some desaturation on it. So I'm gonna go to adjustments and then hue and saturation, and then I'm gonna hold shift and click the building layer too, and then click option and click in on that. So the hue and saturation adjustment layer is only affecting the building. From this we can bring down the saturation or bring it up. Obviously don't want that. And then also I think I'm gonna put a color overlay on this. Now we probably don't want the hard light blue. I think that's good, around 36. Let's go 40. See what that looks like. I think I'm actually gonna take this window and put it down here. What we created kind of looks off. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna use the pen tool, P on your keyboard, and just draw around that. Make a selection, 0 points, grab that, copy, Command C, paste, Command V, we'll just drag that down here. And the perspective is a little bit off, but we can clean that up. And use the warp tool. Okay, so I brought my LUT in here. Right here you can see kind of how it brings the blues a little bit softer and adds a little teal orangey color into the mix. I just like putting that in there to see kind of what the final will look like, and it helps me blend things that aren't blending well. Okay, so now I'm going to bring down the exposure probably to 0.5. We are also going to add some curves in there. I normally bring the curves to the middle here, gives it like a moodier look. And I also like masking out some of the exposure here so that your eye is drawn to the middle of the composition. So to do that, again, press B, X because we want black, and I'll probably change the opacity to 50%. So now you can change the exposure and everything, and it only affects the outside and 50% of the middle here. So you get that kind of vignette look to it. I'm also going to add some light from the left hand corner here. To do that, there's a number of ways you can do that. The way I do it is I just click a new layer, I press G for the gradient tool, make sure I've got white. If you hold shift, it brings it down on an angle. So here's 90, 45. I normally go to 45 and you release. Obviously that doesn't look very good right now. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into the blend mode and go to soft light, and that's soft light there. It's still a bit bright for me, so I'm gonna bring the opacity to 80 and the fill to 80. Yeah, something like that. And then you can play around with the exposure and everything after you've kind of done that to get it to where you like it. Now I gotta add in the trees and blend the trees in with the building here. So I have a couple stock images that I'm gonna pull in here, but this will help sell kind of the island look a bit more. see how it looks. Yeah, it's okay. The one thing I'd say is the light is on the wrong side here, so we gotta Command T, right click, flip horizontal, and that'll look a lot better. So this water lip needs to be blurred a bit, so find your blur tool, and it would be kind of like, it's in motion, right? So it would have that natural blur to it. Alright, we're getting there. We need to add some sort of background now that gives it that like depth, that you're kind of looking past the building. Okay, so that wraps up the edit here. You can see a before and an after here, just to go through all the layers that we added. If you did follow along until the end, I would love to see what you created. Send me a DM at Andrew_Gook on Instagram. And if you did follow to the end, I would love if you liked this video and shared it with your friends, and considered subscribing. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.